Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I am serious about all things fiber. Today we're going to be working on handweaving.net draft number 53946. I did make some slight alterations to this pattern, so if anybody wants a video on that, comment below. I am using Universal Yarn Uptown Baby Sport, which is a gloriously soft acrylic in a sport weight. Because it is acrylic, it is super stretchy, so I'm being really careful not to stretch this while I am warping it. It is going to be 370 ends at 10 ends per inch on a 10 dent reed. It came out to roughly 31 by 41, which is approximately crib size, which is perfect. So after I got everything warped, I came out with 3 warp bundles, roughly a third the number of ends per bundle. And now I'm coming over to my loom, and I have a Maycomber Add a Harness 40-inch loom, which I absolutely love. Whenever I am preparing my loom for a new weave, I remove each of the heddles. And this just makes it a lot easier to spread the yarn out on the lease sticks and into the rattle. And also because it is a bit of a knuckle buster to get those heddles on and off while it's hanging on the loom. And I'm going to show you that a little bit later, how I deal with that. So anyway, I'm removing all 8 heddles. I do actually have a 10 harness loom, but I actually haven't used all 10 harnesses yet. Most patterns that I've been using are just 8 heddles, or excuse me, 8 harnesses. And so anyway, so I'm removing all 8 harnesses and putting them over by my work table, my workbench. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the rattle on, and one thing I love about this loom is that the rattle actually sits in the beater bar. It did take me a while to figure this out, but now that once I have figured it out, I absolutely love it because I do have kind of bad feet and I can actually sit down and put everything in the rattle. So here I am. It doesn't sit in there very well unless you have the top on, so I tie it on with just these stretchy ties. Again, my handy dandy pink stretchy ties, which I absolutely love as well. And this is just, like I said, I think I mentioned in my last video, this is just one giant ball of t-shirt yarn that I picked up off of Amazon, and it is great. I use it for just about everything. And I can cut it, to length. These particular ties I just keep with the rattle, and that way I don't have to keep looking for them. So anyway, so tie the rattle on to the beater bar here, and then I just lean the beater bar forward onto the frame of the loom. Now I'm going to go ahead and unwrap all 3 of the braids for this and remove their tags and put them in order. And this does take a minute, so we'll just speed things up here for a second. Okay, so now I've got all of the bundles evenly spaced on the back bar, and I'm going to go ahead and insert my lease sticks. Do the bottom loop first, and then just kind of set it down there at the bottom, and then I will go ahead and insert I gotta rearrange my bundles there for a sec. And now I'm going to go ahead and insert the top lease stick. And then I will tie them on again with my handy dandy pink ties, one on each side, which I've just tied to the frame there. The first end will go in the bottom of each lease stick. Thread that up through there, and then I will thread that same end through the bottom of the next lease stick. And the reason I do this is because it creates a nice little X when I do this between each lease stick. So now I'll take the second end and I will thread I'll thread this end through the top of each lease stick. And you'll see that that just creates a really nice X, which gives a little bit of tension and also some space between each lease stick so that things don't get all caught up. And then I just tie that to the back bar. And ta-da! There we go. Got that. And now I will go ahead and remove all of the ties around each threading cross. And kind of spread things out a little bit. I got some crossed threads here, so I'm just fixing that up. The reason I tug on it there, you'll see I tugged on that middle one there, is because when I tug on it, it kind of shows me where, if like I have any crossed threads anywhere, it kind of tightens everything up, and I'm able to fix any issues that I might have with any crossed threads. It did actually show me that I missed an end when I was putting it on the back bar, and I was able to get that end re-tied on, which was great because that would have been a very awkward yarn until I figured that out. So anyway, go ahead and tie that loose end on there. And as soon as I get that tied on, I am ready to start placing the threads within the rattle. Alright, here we go. I've gone ahead and started to place the threads in the rattle. I have a 1/2 inch rattle, meaning that the space between each bar is 1/2 inch apart. Since I'm doing 10 ends per inch, I've gone ahead and put 5 ends per section of the rattle. That does make it super easy. And it goes pretty quick. So here we go. Okay, so I've got all of the threads spread out on the rattle, and then I'm just going to go back around to the back and sort of spread things out a little bit better on the back bar, and then I'm going to secure the rattle with the top of the beater bar. Now we're going to move over to my workbench, where I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the extra heddles from each harness that I don't need. It's kind of noisy when you have a lot of extra loose heddles hanging around, and also it does weigh some. It's not a lot, but they do have some weight to them, so I just don't really feel the need to keep them all on there. I use the iWeave It program, which I absolutely love, and it tells me exactly how many heddles I need on each harness. It actually does also tell you how many you need per half, left half or right half, but my harness is actually split into 3, so I don't actually use that part of it. But anyway, I'm just going to go count out exactly how many I need for, this is heddle or harness 1. And so I'm just counting out how many I need for harness 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the extra heddles. So I've gone ahead and adjusted my camera angle so you can kind of see a little bit better what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and separate this bundle on the left here into a group of approximately 50 heddles. And that way, when I need to go back and put these back on a harness for like the next project, it's a lot easier to, you know, count how many you have on there. Just put one bundle of 50 on there or whatever. So I'm right now here I am just counting, and we're going to just speed this up a little bit, and then I will show you how I remove the heddles from the harness. Okay, so I have a bundle of 50, and I'm just going to use, this is just some super cheap scrap yarn that I'm using here, and I thread it onto a big yarn needle, and I'm just going to go ahead and thread the yarn through the top while it's still on the support bars that hold on to the frame there. So I've just gone ahead and threaded that through the top and through the bottom. And then I'm just going to tie the ends together. Now, before I figured out this method, I was actually doing two separate threads, one at the top and one at the bottom, and tying those together, but I found that they were like too floppy and things would get kind of tangled. And with this method, it keeps things fairly straight forward and much easier to get off and on when you are adding or taking them off. And see how it just sits there nicely flat like that. And I will do that with this smaller bundle as well, even though I'm actually going to be using this bundle for the next harness. But again, it just makes it so much easier to get the heddles on and off of the support bars. Okay, so I've removed that last little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and click these support bars back into place. Then I am going to sort of arrange these more or less evenly between the three sections of the frame. So the support bars have little support hooks which keep the bars in place, and it's a little bit of a pain. This is the only thing I don't really like about this particular loom, is how these are spread out, but it works really well. Otherwise, not much to worry about. But anyway, I will go ahead and do this for all 8 harnesses, and then we will go ahead and put them back on the loom here in just a minute. Okay, so now we've completed all of that. We're going to move back over to the loom, and I have already begun removing the ends from the rattle, and I just grab sort of a small handful and tie another tie, my handy dandy pink stretchy ties, around the small bundle and just sort of flip it towards the back over the lease sticks. This is going to help later on when I am threading the heddles. It missed an end there, missed a loop. Trim that up and tie that on. Okay, so I've gotten all of the bundles out of the rattle. I'm going to go ahead and remove the rattle now. And that I just have the one screw on there, and I'm going to remove my tape measure here as well. That just helped me to keep things centered and spread out to the width that I wanted. And so just remove that. The only reason I have the screw on the one end is because it's a little bit loose. That other end, never have the screw on because it's so tight that I just don't need the screw. And put my rattle away. Oops, put my ties away in the proper place on the rattle. They just stay with the rattle all the time so that I have them when I need them. Okay, so now we've got everything back there. We're going to go ahead and put the harnesses back on. And I had them stacked up next to the loom down there at the bottom, starting with frame number 8. Harness number 8, and then we'll just put them all on in backwards order, so 8 to heddle 1. Ta-da! And now I've already started threading here. This is a very simple M&W pattern, and I mentioned earlier that I edited it slightly, and the only thing I did was add an extra bump to the M and the W. So instead of having, well, this pattern had like 2 bumps originally, so it would go from 8 to 1, and then it went from, and then up to 4, and then down to 1, and up to 4, and then back up to 8. And I just added an extra up to 4 and back down to 1, because I wanted the squares to be a little bit bigger, because they just were a little on the small side, and I wanted the squares to be more noticeable, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But anyway, so got that all threaded, and now I'm just slaying the reed here. Trying to get a couple of different angles so you guys can see how I'm doing this. I tie each M or W into a bundle, and that helps me to keep track, and I can double check to make sure that I have everything threaded properly, because you know how it can be when you've messed up. It is such a pain to fix it. So anyway, here I'm almost done. And then on the ends, I've actually been able to do a plain weave border. This pattern accommodated a plain weave border really nicely, which turned out really great. So here I am. I did a little bit in just regular time, not time lapse, so that you can see how I'm doing this. So I trace my finger down along each heddle and then grab the thread. Then I reach in with my reed slaying hook and pull the thread through. Okay, so I've got everything threaded through the reed. I am now just tying small bundles of 10 ends each into little slip knots, so that when I go to tie onto the front beam, they are ready to go, and I don't have to count them at that time. This just makes it a little bit easier. And there we go, last but not least. And I'm going to go ahead and release the beater bar and lean that back. I just had that tied up to the front beam here to keep it from knocking around and like going back on its own. And then I'm just going to pull these threads through. And then another thing I really love about this loom is that front bar actually folds in a little bit. And so here I'm going to go ahead and put it back into its weaving position. And once I've done that, we are ready to tie onto the front beam, which we will get to in the next video. So subscribe and like to see the next one, and thanks for watching.